Hi everyone. Today I have Tyrone Shum from TyroneShum.com, an outsourcing expert on the call today, on the video today, to talk about his processes and how he got involved in outsourcing in the first place. And we're just gonna go from there and share with you guys as much information that you guys can use so that you can live that lifestyle design that you want. So go ahead, Tyrone, introduce yourself to the audience.
Thanks so much, Owen. Thank you so much for having me on the call today. And yes, thanks very much for checking out this and listening to it as well. Just to give you a little background story of who I am, I stumbled into outsourcing. So to tell you a little bit more about my background story was I started off doing a business in dragon boating. And when I first started on the internet, I was looking for a way to be able to just make some side income. And it actually turned into a full-time income when I was actually starting. The way I got started was I was dragon boating myself, and this sport called dragon boating is quite a popular sport across Australia. And usually you've got about 20 people sitting inside the boat going down the river, and we have these big events that really run across every month per year. And what happened was I was competing competitively. I've been doing that sport for about 3 years or so, or two and a half years or so before I really got seriously into my business of dragon boating. And what I was looking for in that particular sport was actually some paddles and some proper equipment. And because we were training at that kind of high level, I had to try and find the equipment that would suit what we wanted. And no one in Australia was actually selling any of these kind of equipment that we're looking at. A lot of people were selling the wooden style ones, and they were really heavy, they were clonkers, they weighed like half a kilo. And we found, or my business that we were doing inside dragon boating found these carbon fiber paddles over in the United States, and we started importing these, and these weigh like 200 grams. They were so light, and they were just like really, really powerful stuff. But the problem with importing them was whenever we wanted to import one of these paddles, it cost us really, really high to be able to ship them across. And to ship one of these paddles cost me about $200, and the paddle itself was $200.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I'm not going to spend $400 just to buy one of these paddles. So what I did is I had a chat to a lot of members in my club and also just people in the community of dragon boating, and said to them, would you all be interested in buying some paddles with me as well? Because I'm going to just order it directly from the supplier. And a lot of them showed a lot of interest, and they said, yep, that's fine, we'll go and buy it all together. So I got together a group of people. I imported it the first, I think it was 20 to about 30 paddles for the first batch, and it still cost me the same, $200 to import them across. Instead of actually buying a paddle for myself, I actually made a bit of money on the side and sold all those paddles back off to all my club members and stuff. And that's how it started. It was just basically like that. And I thought, yeah, all right, well, let's see how we go. Let's see if we can put this on the internet, set up a website and start putting these products online to sell. And through word of mouth, people went to the website, started buying these paddles, and I started making money from them. And from there, that's where the business just started growing, because there was a huge demand all across Australia. There's minimum at least 50 teams in Sydney alone. That's just Sydney. If you look at across all the states, there's about 7 states all across Australia, and each individual state had their own teams as well. So from that, it turned into a 6-figure income business, and from there, that's where I started really making some money. Though the biggest problem was I was working like 60 hours a week, and I thought that, yeah, running my own business, I'm making money, but I didn't realize I'd have to work harder than I expected when I actually started this business. So that's where it just really got me. And I was actually browsing in the bookstore one day, and I came across Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek.
Don't tell me that. That's the same book that even myself, everybody seems to, Tim Ferriss is the guy that brings everybody to outsourcing.
He's the guy. He's the guru behind this 4-Hour Workweek phenomenon. Yeah. And if most people have read it, and I'm pretty sure most people who have actually heard about outsourcing, automation, lifestyle, business design, probably would have heard of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. So I was just walking in the store, just browsing, and it says bestseller book, and all right, I'll just check it out. Picked it up, started reading about his story, and I couldn't put it down. And that's what really got me. I was like reading this story about Tim Ferriss, this guy who's just an ordinary guy, but he had accomplished a lot. And when I started reading through it, I didn't realize there's so much that it really changed my concept. And because I could really, really relate to him, because he was running his own business as well, I started looking into what he did, and that's where I started looking into outsourcing. And his terminology for outsourcing was basically just looking for people either locally in Australia, US, etc., or to go to other countries. And the biggest difference between a Western country or first world country to comparison to like a third world country is just really the currency value. And you could obviously hire people from like, say, Philippines, India, etc. from those countries for a fraction of the cost as what would you pay here. So that's where my journey started. And this is where I've been since then. And what was interesting was that people just kept asking me about it, because once I sold off my Dragon Boat business, I decided to actually go into talking and sharing with people how I outsource, and also teaching people how to do that as well full time. And that's where I've gone into. So that's my background story there.
Definitely, and that's a good thing. It's just funny how the connection that Tim Ferriss have with a lot of people who gets into this. I'm looking forward to actually getting him on the interview one of these days to come on here and let people get to know how everybody who I knows in outsourcing got involved through one fashion or the other. And so now you have people talking to you, trying to find out what you're doing to outsource and get your business grow without you. The question that most people might have is I think getting to that point where you are able to hand over tasks to somebody and feel like you definitely need someone to help you. Besides being overwhelmed, there's also some kind of challenge with people having to let go. What kind of means do you think can help the listener, if they're listening, to actually get to that point where they can let go of this task?
Actually, yeah, that's a really good question, to let go. Let me take a step back. Maybe I should probably put things into a little bit more of a perspective, because just thinking about it, the reason why I outsourced was because I actually wanted to have more time back. And when I did outsource, I cut my hours down from 60 hours a week down to 10 hours a week working in that Dragon Boat business. So for me, it was a saving of at least 50 hours a week, because I had someone working for me full time and she was working 40 hours a week, and I had someone else doing 10 hours a week doing the dispatching and so forth. So that allowed me just to check emails from time to time, handle all that kind of stuff. Now, the hardest thing was when I first read Tim Ferriss's book, it was easy to see where to go, but he didn't teach you how to do it. It's very easy.
It's only the concept, which is a very good concept. But
exactly,
the meat and potatoes is, you got to figure that out yourself.
Exactly, and that's where I struggled. I actually struggled for a very long time. I think it took me at least 6 months before I found the right virtual assistant to run my business. I started outsourcing to India at first, and I struggled. I mean, I tried 3 times in India, and I almost gave up. But I persisted, and fortunately for me, I had this really great Filipino lady who just emailed me and said, look, I'd like to offer our services to you. And I thought, all right, I'll give it a shot. A different country might make the change. And since then, that's what happened. The whole thing just changed and turned my world upside down. Because at first, I couldn't trust to let go. Because every time I sent a task over to people in India, they'd say, yeah, we'll get it done. And then a few days later, they sent back and the work was completely wrong. It just didn't make any sense. It didn't relate to exactly what I want. And I went through step by step showing them what to do. And my biggest mistake, I guess, from that was basically I didn't communicate with them via a conversation like this over Skype. I communicated them via email, and it's very easy to misconstrue different information. And information over email just gets back and forth. Nowadays, I don't have that issue because I don't use email to communicate. We've got systems in place to communicate everything spot on, so that way information gets done, sent over correctly, and the work gets done properly. So coming back to your question about letting go, firstly, it's all about finding the right person or the right team around you. And you could either outsource to a group of virtual assistants overseas, or group of programmers, or whichever your person you're looking for, and finding that right person. That's the key first. And when people go, okay, how do you find this right person? Well, it's a matter of trial and error. It's never going to be perfect at the beginning, but if you follow some simple steps, which I also share with people inside Mass Outsource Mastermind, and also in my free videos, basically it's going through that process and making sure that you interview. You can either go through that process, or, to save you even more time, is pay someone to find it for you who lives in the Philippines. And for example, like yourself, you've got a service as well to do that, and you can filter through and find people too. So that's probably one of the ways to do it. And once you've found that, and you've interviewed them, you've hired them, and you start working with them, in that first month or so, you'll definitely find out whether or not they're the right person in the team. And that's when, after that month, you can start to implement those systems and just start to give them all the work and start to trust them. And it takes time to build. It's like, I'll give you an example. This is nothing related to outsourcing. It's related to relationships. Like, say, for example, you've just met this girl, you really like this person, and you really want to go out with them. you don't trust them and give them your bank account details and your email addresses and all that in the first month, do you? You want to get to know them. You spend more time with them. You talk to them. You know, it's exactly the same thing, just in a professional business relationship. So if anyone's thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to find that right person in that 1 week or that 1 day, never happens. You just need to build that time and that relationship with people and spend that time with them and train them and really get to know them. And that's why I think I've got quite a successful team, because I know them personally. Not that I've met them yet over in the Philippines, but I personally know them because I know their family, I know what they do, what the interests are like, stuff like that. And it really makes a huge difference, because if you get to know them, you can easily help them and support them in what they do.
Definitely. And I like the fact that you made the point that it's a gradual process, and it's going to be, it takes some time, and it also takes some effort on your behalf, in the sense that, a lot of people just make the outsourcing thing look like it's some magic pill. You just take it. I guess it helps to sell the idea of getting the virtual assistant in the first place, but the reality is that there is some work and effort that is necessary on the part of the person who's looking for the virtual assistant or outsourcing service.
Exactly. That's right. And I think
Go ahead.
this concept out there that it's like a magic bullet where you can just take that and get started. With anything you do, even setting up passive income, setting up a house, building anything that is going to be long-term sustainable, you need to put in a lot of effort at the beginning. And that's the thing. You need to just understand it's never going to be just like, given to you on the silver platter. You have to put in those you have to really put in that hard work to be able to set up those systems and the foundations. And once you set them up, you'll start to reap the rewards and the benefits within a few months.
Definitely. And so let's talk about those things and systems that one who's looking to go into outsourcing their task, what they need to do prior to even finding the right person in the first place. You understand the question?
Yeah, I've got that. Well, prior to finding the right person, you got to decide what you need to outsource first. Obviously you can just go out there and look for the person, but if you don't know what you want to be done, then it's pointless. You may as well just walk around with your head off and just go, yeah, I'm just going to take that person and then just put him on my team. No, what I usually say to people is the first thing you need to do is to have a think about in your business, what are the most important activities for you that are going to generate income? And I base it mostly on the 80-20 principle. This is what I do in all my business. I think to myself, and I've got a list here. Every day I sit down and go, what are my 20% activities that are going to generate income for me? And then the 80% of those activities, which are still just as important, but quite administrative work, paperwork, all that kind of stuff that still needs to keep your business ticking over, the day-to-day activities, you can have that all outsourced. So that's what I usually do, and I ask myself, what are my 20% activities? And I'll give you an example, because a lot of people just go, okay, how do I know which is 20% and which is 80% of my activities? Yeah. Basically, you've got to ask you this simple question to yourself. The 20% are the activities that are going to generate income, both directly and indirectly. For me, those activities in my business are usually dealing with clients to be able to build their websites, because I have a web-based web development business on the side. Yeah. And I deal with those clients because those are the clients that are going to be able to generate income. And every time we close a deal, obviously that's income for us. Writing newsletters out to my database, because I know from building up those relationships with my subscribers on my database, I'll be able to promote and also offer them products. Yeah. Writing on my, not writing on my blog, but doing videos on my blog.
Creating the content, yeah.
Creating the content, exactly. So those are my 20% dollar productive activities. And those we know, after doing a lot of testing in my business, are the ones that will generate income. Now, what are the 80%? Some examples are like checking email in my business. We get a ton of support tickets through our ticketing system. I don't check those. My virtual assistant checks them for me and replies back to those people, because we still have to handle customer service, particularly when you're running a membership site and a program as well. Doing day-to-day activities such as building up your websites. Like, say for example, because I've got also niche websites, which I'm doing a challenge with Pat Flynn. We build niche websites on a daily basis, and you need to submit content, you need to build content, you need to get content written, all those kind of things. And those things are sort of like behind the scenes things, but you still need to get done. And if you don't get them done, who's going to do it? Yeah. So those are the 80% activities. I'll have them all outsourced and have them all manually handled all by my virtual assistant. As much as there's good systems in place, we also implement those as well, and we leverage technology to help us there. So that's how you determine what it is that you want to be able to separate. And once you've determined which are the 80%, those are the 80% that you want to outsource. And if you're just looking for someone to be able to handle your paperwork, handle your administrative tasks, emails, etc., then just go out and hire a virtual assistant. But if you're looking to set up a website, a programmer would probably be suitable for that. So that's the thing. You got to ask yourself what exactly you want outsourced before you go and find that person.
And that brings me to a different thing, because like people might say, okay, I have things I want to outsource. There's some of those things that I want to outsource that I do myself. I handle the task myself, but it's not one of the 20% tasks as the income producing tasks. It's maybe more of administrative stuff, and I can actually spend the time to create a system around it. But then there are those things that I want to do, but I don't even know how to do them. So in regards to outsourcing for those two different categories, the ones you know how to do and the ones that you don't know how to do, how does one approach that?
Ah, okay. That's a really good question. This is a really common question that people ask a lot as well too. It's really the technical side. Anything relating to technical, I always recommend to people just outsource it. Don't do it yourself. You can either spend the time learning about it, which will take you probably about 3 or 4 times as long, or you can have someone else do it who has the expertise and just trust that the expertise does it. And for example, building a blog, setting up a website, handling all your website domains, etc., all that stuff, you don't need to do yourself. At the moment, all my websites are all being outsourced to my programmers, and the programmers handle all the web development behind the scenes for all our clients as well. So those kind of things, the technical aspects, I highly, highly recommend. If you can find the right person to outsource it to, outsource it. That's something that you don't need to do yourself. In terms of like administrative tasks, virtual assistants are great for that, and those things I think you just need to consider and think, okay, if it's not right now going to lead me to my end goal, which you have to know what your end goal is, then I don't want you to be doing. You got to think, okay, if it's just checking email on a daily basis and it's not necessary, then outsource and get someone else to do it for you, and they can summarize and send things back to you. That way it will speed up your time and you can focus on those activities, or spend more time off. Like these last few days, I haven't been working. I've actually just come onto this interview to talk with you and, share my story. But these last few days, all I've been doing is watching a lot of movies, becoming a couch potato, doing a bit of exercise, and doing a bit of housework and preparing for New Year's Eve, because New Year's Eve we're having a party at our place. So, yeah, the business is still clocking. I've got my programmers still working on the websites due for next month, and virtual assistants still building up my niche websites. All those kind of things are still happening in the background, and because the systems are in place. And those things you can easily outsource while you have your time off.
And this still back to the point of those things that you don't know how to do, that you want to outsource. There might also be the argument of, okay, I don't know how to do it, but if I don't spend time to kind of learn a little bit about what I'm trying to do, how then do I communicate what I need the expert to do for me?
Okay. Well, for example, then, if you don't know how to do that, then that's fine. You don't have to always know everything, as long as you understand the whole general overview. For example, setting up a website, creating a blog, there's plenty of free tutorials online. For example, setting up a blog, there's tons of those free tutorials. You can go through and sit there and watch them for an hour or two if you want to, but if you understand the whole concept behind setting up a blog and all that, just the basic principles, you only need to spend at most 10 minutes or so to understand that and send all that work off to them. Because most of the programmers are quite competent. They've went to school, studied uni, and finished the degree in computer science or whatever they've done. And at least they've got some knowledge of being able to use a computer to be able to set these things up for you. It's just a monotonous task, but it has to be done by someone. And you don't need to know that. You don't need to know all that behind the scenes. All you need to know is how to be able to access that blog so you can put your content out, or have the website set up so that you can actually do it. And honestly, you don't need to know too much. Like, for example, the niche site dual challenge I did with Pat Flynn, the whole time I didn't have a clue of what kind of content was written. I just knew that they had to write about the topic 3-day detox. I don't even have a clue what the heck the topic is all about. I don't even know what 3-day detox does. I'm being honest with you here. I didn't know.
I actually saw the site. I was like, the first time I saw the site was when I saw it on your blog or something like that. I was like, I don't know what this even is myself.
And that's the funny thing is that I don't even have to know all that stuff. But the thing is, I know that those were the keywords that were chosen. Those were the least competitive words and the highest search words. And they just went ahead and just started writing content and doing all the research for me. I didn't have to do all that. And that's the same thing. Setting up the blog, I didn't have to do any of that. All I wanted to know was reports on basically how that site was doing in terms of ranking, how much income it's generating from it, and if it's working, and also how we can monetize it even further. That's all I need to know.
Definitely. And so to me, that's kind of like for things you don't even know how to do, is really spending the time to understand the overall concept so that basically you can plan out a strategy, and then when it comes to the execution, just hand it over to the right person who matches, is the right person for your team to go and execute the task.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, this is the thing. I'll show you actually. I have what we call the Wycom tablet here. This is just a little tablet that you can see right here.
Yeah.
I basically do the strategy all behind our systems and stuff like that. And what I do is I pull out my pen and I draw it all on computer, and I draw it all out to show them exactly the strategy, how we want it to do. I don't know the specifics behind it. I just know how exactly I want that to look and how the system's going to progress. And once it's all drawn, I just send those diagrams over to them, and then they come back to me and say, yes, we can do it. And then if they've got questions, they'll ask me. And most of the time, they don't have to ask me because they understand how to do it anyway. And I'll leave them up to themselves to be able to figure it out. Then that's how it's supposed to work.
And that's kind of when you hear that saying, don't work on your business. I mean, don't work in your business, work on your business.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Now, you're not working in the business to know the technology and the things they do, but you're planning out the map, making the mind map and things that you need to do, hand it over to them. That's nice.
Exactly. That's right. That's the whole idea. I think most people probably feel as though they don't spend enough time on, and I know that a lot of people just don't because they spend so much time actioning. But if you don't sit down and just think about the strategy, you don't write it down, you don't draw it out conceptually, you're not going to get anywhere because you're just going to still be spending time on the wheel. So I highly suggest for anyone who's really considering outsourcing, just to spend at least an hour a day just to sit down and figure out exactly what needs to be done in the business and then have it all sent off. Strategically, it requires a lot of mental thinking, and a lot of people are just lazy to do that. I can tell you that.
Or maybe the strategy thinking might even make them realize the flaws that they have in what they got going. Maybe that's why they don't want to do it in the first place.
It could be that too. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things that stop us, and it's just our mind that just stops us from doing a lot of things. So you just need to take a step back and think about it, and that's what I just highly recommend. I know it sounds hard at the beginning, and I struggled with that a lot at the beginning too, but nowadays I sit down for an hour in the mornings, write down the strategic plan of what we've got to do for the rest of the month, etc., and then just send it out and get it outsourced and get it done. And that's how I do it.
Definitely. And so now we've covered what you need to do before you find the virtual assistant, how you need to put together your thoughts, your plan and everything, and systems and all that. Now finding that right person to work for you. Right. So I read this book. I don't know if you read it, by Tony Hsieh, Delivering Happiness. Right.
Yes.
Where they tend to focus more on knowing what your culture is as the company and the kind of people that you want in terms of the characters and all that to work for you, and don't really focus that much on the skill set that is necessary for the person to have. So I'm trying to figure out from your own perspective, relating this to outsourcing now when it comes to finding the people to work for you. Right, so you already know what you need them to do, but you find other people to work for you. How do you, from your own experience, engage that?
Okay, well, let's talk about from a different perspective because the people that I train and also teach and also mentor as well, they've got small businesses, so they're not looking at like large companies like Tony Hsieh. Tony Hsieh has thousands of employees, so obviously culture and drive and passion and all that is very, very important. It's not as important inside a small business. I mean, I still do have all that inside my business, and I provide support, encouragement, and passion through all my employees, whoever works for me. Though that's not something that we just poster up and say, this is what we got to strive towards. Basically, what I try to find out from people is, firstly, do they have the previous skill set? And it's important to know that because you want to find out whether or not from their previous work experience, if they've worked in a workforce, what their sample work has been done and what their skill set's like. And the way to do that is obviously to go through an interview process and have a look at what they've done in the past. Once you've done that, I usually want to find out from them directly is what is their family background and what they've been up to. How is their work life structure? How is the home life structure? And I just want to integrate that all in because the reason why I hire them is because why they want to work with me is because they want to work from home. All of my virtual staff all work from home, and they work full-time from home, and I'm happy with that because they have that work balance. They can spend time with their family during certain hours, and then also to work on my tasks that I have them do. And that's why they enjoy working with me, and that's why they stay with me. Whereas if I had a team of people inside an office, a completely different story. I'd probably have to hire managers, additional costs for overheads for the office, etc. And that's not what I'm looking for. So that's something that I look at in terms of skill set. I look at the overall picture of who they are, not just specifically their work skills. And once I found that from them, if they are missing or lacking some of the skills that I'm looking for, that's okay. As long as they have at least 80 to 90% of what I'm looking for, then it's okay, because I can train up the rest. I can provide training material for them. And I can tell you, just from the start, even if you hire them, they've got absolutely no skill, I actually prefer somewhere like that, because I can easily provide them all my training material and get them trained up in my systems, rather than have to retrain them again to get them out of their old methods and old systems. I mean, I'm only talking specifically like virtual assistants or bookkeepers or those kind of things. But with programmers, obviously, they've got to have some level of skill. Yeah, so that's how I look at it.
Definitely, and then that brings it back to, like, if you're outsourcing something that you know how to do, then obviously you should have spent that time to create a system so that, if the person leaves or whatever, someone can come in and take their place and learn the whole step over again, because you've done it once, spend the time to create a system, and then now you have the other part of it where you're outsourcing something that you don't know how to do, which is you're looking for maybe a virtual specialist, maybe a programmer or something like that. And just so that the audience understand, in terms of finding the virtual assistants, how would you best go about, or which sites or where do you go to find virtual assistants? What I'm trying to get at.
Okay. Some of the best sites I found virtual assistants from is from bestjobs.ph, which is a dedicated job website in the Philippines. There's another site that's just recent called Zirtual, Z-I-R-T. Yeah, it's turned into Zirtual. Mare and Kate's new website there.
I actually looked at it yesterday. Go ahead.
It's good. It's quite a good website. I've been on it for over at least a month and a half. Oh, yeah, it's been a month and a half. I was part of the test pilot. She got me to hop on. And you'll notice a lot of the changes were from my feedback. I gave a lot of critical feedback, and I said, so change this, change that. So I said to Vered, just go ahead and change those things, because it'd make it a better user experience for a lot of people. So she's taken on a lot of that feedback, and it's got to where it is today. So I highly recommend checking out that site. That's a great site there. Another service I've been using as well is Chris Ducker's Virtual Staff Finder. That's been really good as well.
I call him the godfather of outsourcing. Go ahead.
Yeah, those are my three most reliable resources. I don't look at anything else. I don't go to Elance or Odesk or any of those, because I find that a lot of them are contractors. I usually look for full-timers for my business, and that's where I head down all the time. And if people are still considering about outsourcing and not sure about starting with full-time or part-timers, the reason why is because you're thinking, okay, I can't afford it. But you got to think, how can I get them to actually be affordable? So hire them for the first month, get them to be able to make their own income back, so that you can have them affordable in your business. Because you got to think to yourself, how can you not afford them?
And that's a good point you make, though, because now you're getting them to work. So how do we do that? That's what I'm trying to figure out now, is someone who wants to start outsourcing but cannot afford certain things, but you're saying get them to earn the income for you to be able to pay them, right? So how do we do that?
Well, there's so many different ways. Like, for example, one of the ways that we do it right now is building niche websites. Niche websites are probably the fastest way to be able to get them to generate their own income. Set up the niche website, get it up to rank really high on the search engines, and start selling affiliate products or advertising income, and generate that so that they can pay themselves off. That's one thing. You've got income from your business. If you're like me, running a web development business, because we have high margins on our websites and selling those to clients, we make enough money to be able to cover for them as well too. So I cannot afford to not have my virtual assistants and web developers, because I need them for my business. I can't do everything myself. So that's the reason why I need them. And it's the same thing with a lot of things out there. You got to just think about that as well.
And what you just said so far, you're coming from the perspective of someone who's involved in the internet a lot. So you're talking about niche website, and some of my audience might maybe be mom and pop shops that don't even have an internet-based business. And I'm thinking the way to have the virtual assistants earn the income is maybe like how you explain. You have the 80-20 task. You have the stuff you do that is 20% that makes income, and the 80% that is stuff that's necessary doesn't make income. I guess maybe in that sense, it will be trying to figure out ways in which you can have the virtual assistant in this mom and pop shop work on those activities that are the 20% that make income.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I've consulted. I was recently going back about over a little bit over a month ago. I was a panelist on a session where there was a lot of small businesses there to medium-sized businesses there, and they were just moms and pops, and they came up to me in a round table situation where they asked me questions about outsourcing. It was like one of the hottest topics there that day. So I was just talking about outsourcing to them. And for example, one of the businesses were just training not online, but training in workshops inside a classroom type of setting. And they were trying to think about cutting down their local administration staff so that they could actually cut down their costs and increase their profit margins. And they asked me, how do we do that? And I said, well, first things first, you could probably cut down your telephone and also your administration staff sitting at the reception. You probably don't need them, because if you're not getting walk-in traffic, you can have someone else answering that call overseas. And you can even have that completely wiped out. Unfortunately, yes, the people locally probably lose their jobs, or maybe they reassign to something else. But, you know, you're saving yourself at least a few $1,000s a month at least in terms of wages, super, taxes, everything like that. So I explained to them, and they've taken action and started to implement that in their business. That's one scenario. Another scenario where somebody as a health, what's his name? It was some kind of thing in the health and well-being industry. And he was just basically looking for also administration staff, like a virtual assistant, to be able to handle all his emails, handle all his setting up and posting of blog posts and all that online. Yeah. And I just said to him, all you have to do is just hire a virtual assistant and just take that away. And these people don't have complete, full internet web-based websites where they're generating income directly from the websites. They're generating incomes from people locally around in the suburbs, people who they go and come to see them. Physios, chiros, anyone can implement this. It's just, you got to sit down and think about it. And if you if you have a think about the kind of money that you spend in having, say, a receptionist, is it really necessary?
Yeah,
you know,
I totally get the point. Yeah,
I mean, like, look at for example, the other day. Okay, my partner, myself, my fiance, and myself went to stay at one of the 5-star hotels, and I was actually surprised. This was pleasantly surprising. I called up to the hotline to book the reservation. I usually do it online, but I just wanted to chat to someone and find out exactly what the availability was like and all that kind of stuff. And funny enough, as soon as I got through to the first level of the call, it was a local person that spoke, but it was an answering machine service. And then as soon as I pressed the number, he redirected me to India, an Indian virtual assistant booking service. And basically, I said to him, so where are you located? And he wouldn't tell me, but he had such a strong Indian accent that I knew it was definitely from India. And I said to him, can I request for a late checkout? Can I request for early check-in? Can I have this and this and this? And he said, oh, sir, you'll need to speak with the people when you arrive at the checkout. Obviously, you can't just call through right now because they're closed. So companies like that, like hotels and stuff, they all outsource, and it's very, very normal for them to actually have all their services, the booking, the reservations, receptionists, everything all outsourced overseas, because it just doesn't cost them as much. And also, too, it's much more efficient, and they can be worked 24 hours around the clock.
So I think even from the perspective of the mom and pop shop, is really taking a whole new look at the business and figuring out, okay, this is everything I do, the whole 360 view of my business. What can I automate that needs to be automated, and what can I outsource, and which are the core that I can even work on myself. That's kind of how, you know, one can go looking at how to get into outsourcing and making it a virtual assistant from the mom and pop shop.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, there's another story I want to share with you about this. This hairdresser I know, he's one of my students. He has a hair studio which he teaches people how to do hairstyling. He used to have
I saw the video. I saw that. Yes. I
did. Yeah. His nickname is Scissor Boy online, and Scissor Boy has this really, really amazing video TV show right now. It's got over 1 million views, easily over 1 million views now on YouTube. He's very, very popular. He's considered also a celebrity right now, but he originally started in a shop. But what he did was he started to outsource all his video production, started outsourcing all his content creation, all that kind of stuff. And all he has to do nowadays is just hop on front of the camera, and he's got people standing there with the camera in him. He sends over the work to the person who's getting outsourced to, and they create that, upload all to video onto YouTube, and basically he's up and running there. And he's just making money from advertising and also selling products in the back end. So that's where mum and dad can start. You know, if you're a hairdresser salon or if you're somewhere like a bakery or any of those kind of things, anything can happen. You know, you just got to think outside the square and see what you can do with outsourcing and reduce your costs too.
Definitely, and I like how you're giving live examples because when I have guests on the show and they're giving you concepts. I always like when a guest like you can come up and give examples to make it even more concrete so that the audience understand what's going on.
I've got so many students and members who've been through my course. That's why I can tell you all these stories because I talk to them regularly and they're like amazing. Like I've got so many other stories I can share with you. I could go on all day if you wanted me to.
Definitely. And so now we kind of get an idea of how to find the person to work for us, but it also has to do the point that has to do with the management of the virtual team of VAs now. So in that respect, what points you have for my audience?
Well, two simple things. Management of your virtual team is all about strong and dedicated training at the beginning. Obviously, over time, once they've understood and you've got those training videos in place or any of those training documentations, it's easy for them just to go back. And it's just updating them, making sure things are up to date. So one main point, as I'm just pointing out right now, is the training material. Make sure that you've documented everything and put everything on video and also on a Word document or whatever you decide to put in. That's important. Second thing is having a project management system, whether it be Basecamp, Active Collab, or any of the open source project management systems. Make sure you have a project management system set up and make that as being your base, your really base for everything. Like having all your passwords, login information, training material, support information, everything's got to be documented all in there because the last thing you want to do is say you go on holiday for a week or two and they can't get access to you by email. Where they're going to go to get the information. Whereas if you've got it in a project management system, if you've got a team of people, they can communicate with each other, they can talk with each other and get the information they need to complete their work. So that's the second point, and that's the crucial point that I want to just highlight. If you want to manage them really well, and that's the reason why my system's automated, is because they all talk to each other via the project management system. And if they need to, they can talk to each other on Skype, and they've got access to each other as well too. So I let them be. So yeah, that's how you manage staff. Obviously, at the beginning, you got to set the system up, and it takes time.
Definitely, and I guess that's how we've walked through the different processes. And I guess at this point where you have that management tool where the VAs are talking to one another, you have all the processes and all the process manuals that you use all in the system. This is the point where it now really becomes the real lifestyle design that Tim Ferriss was talking about, where you can really step out of this thing and work the 4 hours and have someone else even maybe oversee the VAs that are working in your team, and you just come in when you needed emergencies, I guess. Exactly.
Or if there isn't an emergency, which usually there aren't really any emergencies, you shouldn't see them as emergencies.
No, I'm saying,
well, I mean, it's when you want to pop in, I guess you can say. And that's the whole idea, is to create a virtual lifestyle so that you can have other people doing the work whilst at the same time making money for you, and you can go off and do whatever you want to do.
Definitely. And you see how what we've done in this interview now is we've given people who have gotten a chance to read the book how to fit the pieces together. So I like that. That's so good. And so, Tyrone, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I mean, we've learned a lot.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. What was that?
No, I was just saying you're welcome.
Yeah, it's my honor to have you on the show. And one of the things I'm trying to do is get as many people in the outsourcing field who are experts like yourself and have good resource to share, to come on here and share with the audience, because we all are learning and trying to take this information and improve on, upon our business, and eventually all live that a virtual business lifestyle that we all seeking. So for that audience member who's still having that difficulty trying to wrap their mind around this whole thing of outsourcing or making use of virtual system, what is that one thing you want to leave with them to prompt them towards the right direction of doing it?
Okay, I always say this to people, and I think it's just a simple thing. The thing is that I just highly recommend you just take action. As Nike always says, just do it. Take action, trial it, see what you can do. There's no harm in making mistakes. You may lose a little bit of money, but I can guarantee you won't lose a lot of money. Just try it first and take that step. And it's through trial and error you'll learn how to actually make it work. Now, to make it easier for you and to help you through with the system much quicker, you can check out my free videos. I've got 10 free videos at massoutsource.com. If you just sign up for that, you can get those 10 free videos and guides you through step by step on how to outsource all the way from the start, from hiring a virtual assistant all the way to management. And if you want to just check it out, that you can just get those free videos from there. So yeah,
that's what's the website again, so that the audience know where to go. Again, what is that?
Yep, Mass Outsource, and I'll spell it for you. MASSOUTSOURCE.com. And Mass Outsource is basically outsource with mass at the beginning.
Yeah. So everyone, you know where to go, and thank you, Tyrone, for doing the interview. Is there anywhere else you want them to go, maybe on social media, to connect with you, so we can let them know as well?
If you want to check out any of the information I have, I always update my blog pretty much on a weekly basis, and there's always lots of tips about outsourcing and automation and lifestyle business design. You can check out my website at tyroneshum.com, spelled TYRONESHUM.com. And Owen, if you want, you can just put the links down below this video as well too, and people can go and check it out too.
I'll do that, definitely. And thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks again. Sweet.
So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really want to know what exactly you think. I mean, if I suck and if I'm not doing a good job, I want to know, because by your input and your comments, your suggestions, your feedback, that's how I'm going to improve on the entire package of what I'm sharing with you. I really want to improve so that you know that your time is well spent when you watch my videos. And if I do good on interviews, and if you like certain things I do, please let me know so I can even improve upon that as well. And I want to thank you really, because your time is well spent, and I mean, your time is important to me, and I want to make sure that I continuously put this information in front of you. So I want you to join my community. And in order to do that, you need to click on the link that says get the free ebook, enter in your name and email, and you will receive as a gift from me my free ebook titled The Entrepreneur's Guide to Running a Business in the Cloud. The reason I do that is because I want to share with you that information. You can check it out and make use of it in your business. In the same vein, I will be sending you email updates every time I have new blog posts, as well as if I have new stuff that is not even on the blog, I want to share with you. That way we can stay in contact. One more thing, before you go, I want to also let you know that if you are really serious about finding, hiring, training, and even working with virtual assistants, if right now you want to get that started, why don't you sign up for my free webinar where I share everything about the entire process. And you can get to do that by clicking on the link on the very top of my blog where it says sign up for the free webinar. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.